All right, so man, y'all had no idea how much work I did to try to get this video put up here to start this class. So I wasn't satisfied with the quality of video, so I took this. First, I took this camera, and I took this camera and tried to make a video. I just posted it, so then it cut off halfway in the video. So then I had to post part one and part two. Then I looked at it. I'm like, nah, man. So I apologize for being late to class. Normally, I like being on time. Um, but I just wasn't, I was looking at some of the other videos and I wasn't satisfied with the quality. And so, and so so I uploaded the two videos that I took earlier, and then I looked at them like 2 minutes ago, and I just like, man, I'm going live. So I got my little this stuff kind of hooked up here, makeshift on the fly. But I'd rather talk to y'all live and teach y'all right than have that the way it was. Yeah. So I'm pissed for some reason, man. Like this camera, and I had a Canon. They only let you, and maybe you guys know more about the film. They only let you record for like a half hour, like the Canon Rebel, and then it just goes off. And so I looked it up, and they was saying something about they don't, because it's like a regular camera like that. They don't want you abusing the film, right? I don't know what the hell. But that's for another day. Let's get this started, right? And so yeah, man, I was downstairs in another room getting all this video. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be Mr. YouTuber and all that. Man, that shit was all messed up. So I'm just here to teach. All right, so we're gonna talk about stop and frisk, right? And again, this is our third criminal law class. I'll try to be quick with you, but you've seen it. The last few months it was discussed when Bloomberg was in the race because he was the mayor of New York when they had the actual stop and frisk that was not what we're about to learn. I'm going to tell you the difference and why New York stop and frisk was thrown out and ruled unconstitutional. But even President Trump has said, with respect to Chicago and the violence out there, well, they need to implement stop and frisk. Here's why what Bloomberg and what Trump talked, that's illegal. But here's where we're at with respect to stop and frisk. All right, so again, we had the search and seizure, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. Why is that on there? Let's go back. Oh, I can't go back. All right, here we go again. All right, so bear with me again. Let's go back. Go here to slideshow, to this slide, current slide. Thank you. All right, so now keep in mind again, all searches all searches that are done, all seizures by the police are not unreasonable. You get a speeding ticket, right? You're not under arrest, right? But you ain't free to leave. Why? So even though you're seized, right? You get pulled over in a speeding ticket. You ain't going nowhere. You ain't free to leave, right? The officer's gonna go back, run your plate, whatever, come back and give you a ticket and say, "Ma'am, have a good day." At that point, you're not under arrest. So why is it lawful for the officer to be able to stop you? Why does that not violate what you're reading right here? Unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause. Well, if you're not under arrest, why can't you just go? Because those are considered reasonable. All right. Only unreasonable searches are against the law. And so, what's probable cause? Right? What's probable cause? Because stop and frisk is below probable cause. Probable cause is where it's kind of hard to define, but the Supreme Court talks about it being a totality of circumstances. And I'm like, what is it? When I was in law school, I was like, what the hell, y'all? When you read these cases that these judges write, they might as well be writing in a different language for at least. The other students in my law school class was able to understand that shit. I was like, hey man, y'all got to break this down for me because all this here and there, here with her and there with her and all that. Man, I'm like, hey, I don't understand what you're talking about, right? So I was like, man, maybe I ain't gonna make it up here in law school. But anyway, so let's So let's say an officer is following this guy, right? And he sees a guy weaving in and out of traffic, right? He's like, well, this guy might be drunk. So he pulls him over, walks up to this car. Hey, sir, can you pull your window down? Guy pulls it down, and, he kind of smells some alcohol. Can the officer arrest him at that point for DUI? And the answer is no, right? It's not illegal to drink and drive. It's illegal to drink and be impaired and drive, right? You can have a glass of wine and go drive, right? And so can the officer arrest him at that point? No. Now he's got a suspicion that the guy may be drunk, but he needs probable cause. So hey, come on, get out the car, man. Why don't you see if you can put your nose, put your finger to your nose, walk this line, say the ABCs, and then you start messing the shit up. Okay, sir, you're under arrest, right? So at that point, right, the officer has probable cause to believe the person is driving impaired, therefore the person is under arrest. All right. Now, here's what happened here in Terry versus Ohio. Now, this is Detective Martin McFadden. And old Marty here, well, this all happened in 1963. It was Halloween, 1963, right? And Detective Martin McFadden was one of them detectives, man. That really would just look at a person and be, like they're up to no good. And so, and I don't want to get into his long history, but I mean, this guy was something else. But he'd been on it for us, I believe, well over 20 years. He's a detective. And what happened was in 1963 on Halloween. So you see Terry, Katz, and the other defendant here. And this is a picture, you may not be able to see it, but this is a picture of the store they were out of. And I was able to find, so when the police arrest you, they do a report. I was able to find Detective McFadden's report from 1963. Now, some of y'all heard about Terry versus Ohio. This is where Stop and Frisk comes from. If y'all tuning in and saying, what the hell is Stop and Frisk, I'm about to tell you. It comes from this case, right? They call them Terry stops. All right, but here's his report. I had never seen that until yesterday, man. I was like, I'm working for y'all. Like, I'm gonna give a free class, but I'm not gonna half step. If y'all gonna get a class from me, you gonna get a good class, and whatever I say, you can take to the bank. Right now, I'll tell you if it's my opinion. Right, but as far as the law is concerned, I'll tell you. So so you get arrested. Remember the police? You see it on the like The Wire and other cop shows where they make the arrest. All right, you're gonna do the paperwork. Well, this is the paperwork, right? And so this is McFadden's police report. Here's what he saw that day that made him approach these guys, right? He says, and excuse me for blocking the screen, but he says, at about 2:25 this p.m. and this date, remember it was Halloween, October 31st, I was walking east on Huron Road. I noticed two colored men. Keep in mind, it's 1963. I noticed two colored men standing at the corner of Huron Road and Euclid. This is in Cleveland. Remember my students that did Matt versus Ohio with me at our first class? That was up in Cleveland too, man. Cleveland be off the hook. But that's my home state. So anyway, dang, I done messed it all up. All right, so I noticed two colored men standing on the corner of Huron Road and Euclid Avenue. I noticed one of these men would leave the other and walk west on Huron Road. He would kind of slow his walk and look into a United Air, which is located at 1276 Euclid Avenue. See, this is United Air right here, this building, right? So he would look into United Air on Euclid, but it also has a rear entrance on Huron Road. He would then continue to walk west on Huron Road and stop. And then as he came east again, he would pause and again look into the United Airlines. When he came back to Huron Road in Euclid, he would talk to the other colored man, and the two other men would take the same walk. They would walk together and do the same as the other man, pausing in front of the United Airlines. Okay, and during the time I was watching them, they made about 3 trips each. While they were together at the corner, I saw a white man who came east on Huron Road stop and talk to these two colored men. And after he left them, he walked west on Euclid Avenue. Right now, the white guy in trouble because he done stopped and talked to two black guys. Man, and I'm telling y'all, man, Hey, look, some of y'all, a lot of us have dreams on going to law school or dreams of doing stuff, and we just, like I said before, life gets in the way. And so, you don't have to be some type of rocket scientist. I'm not putting the law profession down, but you ain't got to be a rocket scientist right? This is just human stuff, right? And it happens, anyway. Because Terry didn't think, like I said, Terry didn't think, man, when he got arrested, sometime in 2020, Professor Lawson going to be on live on Facebook talking about my case when he was casing this joint. But anyway, so he says, he saw the white guy come and this white man left the corner. These men also left the corner of Huron and Euclid Avenue and went west on Euclid Avenue in front of 1120 Euclid Avenue Zucker store, not in front of a store. These two colored men met the white man again. They met him again, and they stopped and talked. At this point, I approached these three men and informed them I was a police officer, right? And told them to keep their hands out their pockets. Now, here's where we get into the stop and frisk, right? So he approaches them. Hey, put your hands out your pocket. Then he starts patting them down. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've seen it on cop shows, and you may have seen it in your damn neighborhood, right? So he pat them down, and what does he find? He finds, first I searched was John Woodall, his top coat, found a .38 caliber automatic and a P Beretta, and then he searched Terry, found the gun, right? And so he arrests him. And charge him with carrying a concealed weapon. And Terry and them, they get their lawyers and they say, hey man, what y'all say about that Fourth Amendment? Right here. What did Chester, look, I didn't go to law school, man, but I know something about the Fourth Amendment. He ain't had no probable cause. And keep in mind, here's what happened. The officer they hadn't done nothing illegal. So he ain't had no probable cause to arrest him. And what Terry and them is saying is, hey, if you don't have probable cause to arrest me, why you seize me? You told me I wasn't free to go, and you patted me down, and you searched me. And then you found a gun. And the only time that you can seize me, right? The right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, paper, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, but upon probable cause. And you couldn't arrest me because you didn't see me do jack. So why you got me hemmed up here and you search and you find the gun by patting me down? Right? That's what Terry was arguing. This is a violation of my Fourth Amendment right. And his lawyer went in there and argued it. Okay? And what the court said, so again, now you're in law school now because you're taking these free classes, so I'm going to treat you like law students. So there go Detective McFadden again. He just he got cop written all over him. They go to Popo. All right, so the issue. So in law school, right? You give the students the facts. Here are the facts of the case. Students, what's the issue? The issue is whether a search for weapons without probable cause for arrest is an unreasonable search under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. In other words, if you ain't got probable cause to arrest me, and you search me, ain't that unreasonable? And Supreme Court said, no, man, that ain't unreasonable. They said it was a reasonable. Look, I done told y'all, when you look at the Constitution, right? If it's that the police searches you, it doesn't mean that it's illegal. It doesn't mean it's unconstitutional. What has to happen is you have to be able to demonstrate without a doubt, hey, it was an unreasonable search. And what the court is saying here is, look, let's get real, man. Hey, if the police out there and they think that and they believe that somebody may be engaged in illegal activity, if they got what they call reasonable suspicion. So here's the test. They have to articulate why they had reasonable suspicion to believe that Terry was engaged in illegal activity. And it can't be a hunch. It can't be, because of my police instincts, he just looked suspicious. Therefore, based on my instinct and a hunch and the way he looked, I was able to stop and frisk him. That's not the standard. The court says here, you got to tell us objectively. Tell me what you saw. And then if you can tell me what you saw, I can evaluate as a judge, because I'm going to hear whether it's constitutional or not, right? Terry's saying it's unconstitutional. So I'm the judge. How do I know that? How do I know if what you did, Officer McFadden, Detective McFadden, didn't violate his rights? And so for me to determine whether or not the search was reasonable, whether or not the seizure was reasonable, tell me what you saw, not what you felt. And so what McFadden said, hey, man, they out there in the sun and on Halloween peeking into that place of business. And I got over 20 years of experience dealing with burglars and robbers and jackers and stuff like that. And so they kept walking back and forth, looking inside, talking to each other, watching around, right? These are the objectives. Now, I couldn't tell you, Judge, I can't tell you if they were going to commit a crime. I didn't know. But I wanted to approach them and at least ask, what are y'all doing, man? Right? So these are the objective factors that I looked at, Your Honor, in determining that I had reasonable suspicion to believe that they was engaged or about to be engaged in illegal activity. Now, I couldn't arrest them, so I wanted to go talk to them. But based on all this behavior, and if they're going to commit a robbery, which I suspected they were, based on the way they were acting, I wanted to make sure they wasn't armed so they couldn't kill me. So when I walked up to them, I'm like, hey, this is common sense, man. What do you expect me to do? Keep your hands where I can see them, right? Because if they are about to commit some type of robbery, they may shoot me to get away. And so it ain't unreasonable, Judge, for me as a detective to say, hey, look here. I want to talk to you, but I believe you may be armed and dangerous. I'm going to pat you down. I'm not going into your pockets. See, the pat down on the stop and frisk, the officer can't go into your pockets and all that. They pat you down. You seen it on the daggone shows, right? They got them up there, they pat you down, right? And what they supposed to be patting you down for is weapons. Now, here's an important point. So you can be briefly detained based on an officer having reasonable suspicion you're engaged in illegal activity. And if that officer also can articulate, he has to or she has to articulate why they believe you're armed and dangerous, they can pat you down. Now I'm about to give y'all a little hypothetical to see if you've been paying attention or you're just playing around, buzzing in and out of Facebook. All right, here go your hypo. Now you got a guy look like he shot with, well, right? But you don't know because he ain't passed that cash register yet. You know, sometimes y'all done heard that stuff. Now some of the stuff that y'all hear in the streets actually is right than other stuff. Like some people, we're gonna talk about reading of the rights. People say, I used to get clients that come in and say, Attorney Lawson, the cop arrested me and didn't read me my rights. Ain't that an illegal arrest? And I would say, well, did the officer ask you questions and get you to try to confess? You say, no, he ain't take nothing. He just said I was under arrest and put me in the cruiser. And he ain't never read me my rights. But he didn't question you, no. Well, then he don't have to read you your rights. It ain't an illegal arrest. What? And I explained to him, what do those rights say? You have the right to what? Remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. That goes towards questioning. If I want to question you, I got to read you your rights. If I'm just arresting you, I ain't got to tell you jack. Put your hands behind your back. Let's go. All right, but I digress. Getting back to this guy. So, supposedly the police officer, based on her personal observation, reasonably suspects but lacks probable cause to believe that a customer in a store is about to shoplift some merchandise, right? So you're down at Costco and y'all done, seen someone, it's like, hey man, so you got somebody over there picking stuff up, and then when the officer comes around, they put it back, and the officer's watching this. Then they follow him over to the other aisle. They see him do this. Right when they make eye, you see that eye contact dude got right there, like he's seeing the officer right, he about to pull it back out and put it down. Now he ain't passed the cash register yet, so he could just be carrying it up there and then all of a sudden take it out, right? So we ain't got probable cause to arrest him because he ain't made right. So the question is, your first hypothetical question. I'm gonna look in the comments. Now we just applying Terry. What I mean is the law in Terry. Remember the law in Terry is that if an officer believes, right, can articulate objective facts as to why he or she believes a person is engaged in illegal activity, then they can briefly detain, right? That's Terry. Can the officer briefly detain him and question him? All right, I'm going to look in your comments to see. I need a yes or no. Don't be giving me no long-winded stuff. Yes or no, can the officer detain him and ask him, what are you doing? Sir, you don't seem to be buying Jack in Costco, but you're walking around stuff. Looks like you're putting stuff in and trying to avoid me. Can the officer do that? Yes or no? Let me pull up the comments here. God dog it. I'm about to give y'all the answer. Hitting the wrong thing. Okay, I got Nelson Johnson say, yeah. Paige, she say no. My boy Simeon Teague, he say nope. Cheryl says yes. Etta, yep. Monica, yep. Cat Ann, nope. All right, there's a second. I got a second question for y'all. Now, may she pat him down? Those that said yes. Yes, she can. The officer can stop and briefly detain her. Not arrest, right? But just say, hey, what are you doing in the store? Now, so if you say yes, she can do that. Can she pat him down under Terry? Yes or no? Don't be giving me no long-winded answers because I ain't trying to do. Daggone, where my clicker at? Working on these two screens can be confusing for a man like me. All right, Teague says no. Stacey Allen, you saying legally yes to the pat down? Della, you saying no? Nelson, you saying yeah? Wait a minute, hold on. Nelson, you saying yes? She can pat down for weapons? I got to see Nelson again. He say officer safety. Spoken like a true officer. Look here. All right. So listen up. What did I tell y'all? See, this is. I gotta get some water. Y'all making me. All right, look. What I tell y'all. The law requires the officer to have a reasonable suspicion on specific and articulable facts the person is armed and dangerous. If all you see is somebody in there shoplifting, you got to articulate why you believe that shoplifter was armed and dangerous. See, what Terry was saying is, look, man, I can understand you thinking that we're on a corner doing something illegal. You can come over, yeah, talk that, whatever. But you searched me. Right? And the officer said, well, let me tell you why I thought you was armed and dangerous. And he gave out those facts. Here, all you got is somebody walking around Costco trying to put toilet paper and stuff, and you know what I mean? And so Terry wouldn't justify that. Now, I know that, but, Nelson is right. All the motion. So I did this for 18 years, man. And the officer would say, officer safety. It's like no matter who they approach, they just going to pat them down, right? So I got another one for y'all. Here goes your second hypo. Officers pulled their squad car into an alley and ordered a young man to stop and submit to a pat-down search. The search revealed no weapons, but the officer conducting the search said, and here's what the officer said, as I pat searched the front of his body, I felt a lump, a small lump in the front pocket. I examined it with my fingers and slid it, and it felt to be a lump of crack cocaine and cellophane. The officer then reached into the man's pocket, took out a plastic bag containing 1/5 of 1 gram of cocaine. Assumed the officer had reason to believe the suspect is armed and dangerous. Is this search legal? So y'all seen this before. I mean, that's, here in Hawaii, you seen an officer jump out, search somebody. And so again, the hypo says that you have to take into account that the officer had the right to search for the weapon. Okay? Now, read it again before I ask for the answers. Officers pulled their squad car into an alley and ordered a young man to stop and submit to a pat-down. The search revealed no weapons, but the officer conducting the search said that as I pat-searched the front, right? So he passing down, doesn't feel no weapons. But then he feels something hard in the boy's pocket, and he starts squeezing it. And then he moved it around a little bit and said, "Oh, that feel like cellophane." Then he reached in and pulled it out. Is that legal? Yes or let me pull it. Hold on now before y'all. Yes or no? Is that a constitutional stop under Terry? Here goes down Nelson again talking about looking for weapons. Man, you always looking for weapons. Page says no. Allen says illegal search, weapons only. Uh-oh, Allen on top of something. Etta says no. It's not legal. All right. Let me see. Pat down for weapons. Okay, he can't go into his pockets for drugs, Page said. Stacey Allen says illegal search. Charles says no. Etta said it could be a lighter. Della says, I say no. Teague says no. Donnie says no. Well, you guys is on top of it. Y'all have been paying attention. Sometimes I fool my law students with this one. See? And my law students ain't no joke. Y'all did good. All right, so the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that once officer knew that the lump was not a weapon, he should have stopped. Now, there's other judges going to rule the other way. Right? Because, see, a lot of times, look, whenever I would have a case to where, like, if my client got caught with, like, a small amount, like here, there's a small amount. So you could get a judge to agree to throw that out because it ain't nothing. But you get a case like, I had one that was 120 pounds of marijuana. This was when marijuana was illegal. And then one with kilos of cocaine. Hey, them judges, you got to fight, man. Them judges don't want to throw that out because really what they looking at the back end. And so then they'll try, some of them will try to justify, but here, what the court is saying is, look, we tell you that you can briefly detain somebody if you believe they're engaged in illegal activity. If you think, and you can tell us why you believe they may be armed and dangerous, we'll let you pat down for a weapon. That way you can feel comfortable to know that once you engage them in conversation, they ain't going to shoot you. So the whole purpose is for you to detain them briefly to see whether or not, or to engage why it is that they may be doing what you think they're doing. So we'll let you do that. That's reasonable under the Fourth Amendment, so there's no violation. If you can articulate, officer, why you believe that the person is armed and dangerous, we'll let you pat them down. But once you pat them down and they're not armed and dangerous, you go further and you are into a search. And so when you patted this young man down and the officer admitted, I didn't find a weapon, but I felt something hard. Now, you knew it wasn't a weapon. It was like what? Something like this big, right? So he's squeezing it, and I move it around his pocket. It felt like so I pulled it out. Right? Now you're searching him. And you ain't got probable cause to do that. You ain't looking for a weapon. What are you doing? You haven't seen him engaged in illegal activity. And so then that violates the Fourth Amendment. All right. And finally, and here's why New York's stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional. Now keep in mind, stop and frisk they call them Terry stops because of Terry versus Ohio. They are constitutional when they're executed the way they're supposed to be. But in New York, what they was doing was just, all the evidence showed they were stopping people based on the color of their skin or based on the fact that they looked suspicious. Right? And so, and there were officers who testified that when they would get the roll call in the morning, that they would be ordered to make sure that they had a certain quota. And the whole theory was that, it's stop and frisk and it's going to reduce crime. And here's what the stats showed. That 88, in 2011, and these stats stayed consistent all these years, 88% of the people stopped were innocent. So out of 100%, 88% of everybody y'all was stopping and frisking and putting up against a wall, they was innocent. 87% was black or Latino. Right? And so again, and that's why the judge ruled that unconstitutional, because you're stopping and frisking people not based on any objective criteria that they're engaged in illegal activity. Really, what you're doing is you're stopping and frisking them and searching them because of the way they look, or you may think that people are. I had a case, man. Paul Lovelace. I'm almost done. But so Paul Lovelace was white. And some of you in Cincinnati, a long time ago, man. But he was white, and he was in a black neighborhood during the day. And the police tried to pull him over, and Paul led him on a chase. And so I had the officer on the stand. And here's what he said. I said, well, what was he doing that made you even hit your lights to try to pull him over? He wasn't driving illegal. He's like, no. And the officer said this, and he was dead serious. He's like, for a white man, a young white male to be in a black neighborhood, the only reason why he there is to buy drugs. Now, what the officer was saying is two things. That everybody in the black neighborhood selling drugs, and ain't no white person coming to a black neighborhood other than to get drugs. It's in the middle of the day. And that's what started that chase. Ended up in being a long police chase. Maybe we can talk about it some other day, where an officer who was involved in the chase ran into a young man that was leaving his job from the Cincinnati Reds Stadium and killed the young man. And then they charged Paul with the death of the young man that the police officer killed when the officer ran through a stop sign, didn't stop, and wasn't supposed to be in the chase, but just joined it just to be joining it. That's another story. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Go to my YouTube channel, like my page, and the videos, and subscribe to it if you can. I told Nelson and some others that I would like to work on a criminal law video on actual innocence and the Massey case that happened here in Hawaii. So I'll be doing that too. But take care of each other as you shut in. Take care of yourselves. And as Don Cornelius used to say when he signed off from Soul Train, baby, I come back next week, it's going to be a stone cold gas. Something like that. Jamil knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, love, peace, and souls is also what Don said. See you all later. Thanks for coming to your class. And how do I get out of here?